And now for a cultural call-out. We sure don't appreciate that.
In today's cultural call-out, we're going to be grappling with the idea of signs of the Sabbath. This is from President Nelson in one of his recent conference addresses. He said, "How do we hallow the Sabbath day? In my much younger years, I studied the work of others who had compiled lists of things to do and not to do on the Sabbath. It wasn't until later that I learned from the scriptures that my conduct and attitude on the Sabbath constituted a sign between me and my heavenly Father. I no longer needed lists of do's and don'ts. When I had to make a decision whether or not an activity was appropriate for the Sabbath, I simply asked myself, what sign do I want to give to God? That question made my choices about the Sabbath day crystal clear." From a cultural standpoint, it can get real easy to start making a big list of things that are okay, things that aren't okay. But what are your thoughts? What do you think President Nelson means by your behavior is a sign?
Yeah, well, I think when growing up, we had a lot of rules in our house that I don't think I ever received like a very clear like dictation as to why that we did those things. But it wasn't until I grew up and started implementing those same rules in my house that I realized that there's a deep benefit to why this is in place, right?
There's a method to the madness. Yeah,
there's a method to the madness. Maybe our parents are just too tired to explain it to us.
6 kids is a lot. Yeah.
What you really need to realize is that like every action you're taking is displaying something, if not to your kids, to your God, right? It's showing something. It is giving a sign to what you're thinking and how you're feeling. So if you're going to spend your whole day in front of the TV and then you're going to go to church and then you come back and you're going to spend your whole day in front of the TV again, what is the Sabbath? What are you actually accomplishing? What
Right.
sign, like you're saying, are you giving to God and to your family around you?
After reading that quote from President Nelson, the way that I've been able to teach it to my kids and to explain it to other people has been through comparing it to the signs that we give each other in a relationship, and specifically with your spouse, because that's a covenantal relationship. One of the things that I want to do really quick is show you a clip. So this is from a popular reality TV show. It's called Extreme Cheapskates. It's one of my guilty pleasures. And
There you go.
This guy is preparing to celebrate a special occasion. It's his 10th wedding anniversary, and he has decided that he is not going to spend a cent over $25 for his wife's anniversary party. It's going to be a surprise party. So he ends up going to this balloon shop, and he haggles over discount balloons, and he cuts a deal there. And then he goes over to the baker and he cuts a deal there and he's like, "Hey, can you just give me whatever you're using? Maybe it's like stale ingredients or whatever. Just give me the leftovers and I'll take that for a cheap price." And he haggles with everybody and then he puts this big party together. And so we're going to zoom into this clip right as he's about to let his friends into this party. And then we're going to see what his wife thinks of all of this. All right. And then we'll get back to our conversation on the Sabbath. So here we go.
I appreciate my wife. Most husbands don't even remember their anniversary.
All these balloons. This is a lot of love right here, I tell you. Ooh, gotta stamp for release.
You see that scotch tape that he's putting up? He didn't want to pay for the helium, man. So he blew it up himself. That's a police car balloon. He's putting scotch tape on the wall to tape it up. So just want to call that out.
2-3 hours. Well, the napkins say 16, but I'm sure we're gonna make it to 16 years of blissful marriage, so hey.
So my guests arrive at this party and they walk in and their first reaction is, okay.
I was a little bit surprised when I came in. It was definitely different than what Rick would have done. You can't do a party like this for $25.
Hopefully Shauna's happy.
Okay, look at that wife's face. Do you see that face? So, I'm freezing.
Oh, man.
Look at that face. Is that the face of love and admiration? She took it all in like a half second. And her face, does it look more surprised and impressed and overcome with emotion? Or does it look more annoyed and maybe a little bit frustrated?
the thing that shocks me is the complete lack of surprise in her face. She knew that this was going to happen. She's mad that she's not surprised. That's what that face is like. Here we go again.
Right.
Holy boy. I near about threw my back out cringing over that. That was rough to watch. That was difficult.
We'll get you some Tylenol after the show. So
yeah, for sure.
So this is the way that I've been able to explain it to my kids. So I show them like a clip like that, and then I say, all right, so this was a special day for them. He wanted to honor this relationship that he has with this woman. This is a covenantal relationship. What signs, and this is the question I'll kick out to you. So what signs do you think he was showing to her by how he observed that special day? And before you answer, one question, real quick, just one comment is, I don't want to try and communicate the idea that you can't plan a party on a budget. Like, everyone who went to college knows that you can be thrifty. You could probably, for $25, you could probably get the Betty Crocker cake mix. You don't need the balloons. You could get the dollar balloons. You know, I get it. You could probably do a much better party on that same budget. This isn't about being thrifty. Okay, so back to that question. Go.
It's interesting because he thought he was giving all the right signs. He spent his whole day like haggling. Like he went to like 4 different shops to get the best deals for all this little stuff. Like he put an immense amount of effort into this. Like it could have been one store and done, right? Or better yet, it could have been a destination celebration somewhere else, right? Like where it's all taken care of. That's what it should have been. But he spent his whole time working hard just to disappoint his wife. I feel like that's analogous to a lot of members' experiences in the church. But what really, like, in terms of the signs that he's giving his wife is, like, you're not worth more than $25 to me at the moment. Like, I'd rather go and spend the whole day getting the price down than spend more money on you, which means I could spend more time on you.
Right.
Because like the time to money ratio there and the actual celebration in the mix as a result being small and short and disappointing is a sign that he just doesn't, he's missing the mark on how to communicate with his wife. And so, nobody wins in that situation.
He technically did all the right things. He got the balloons.
Yeah.
He got the streamers. He got the, the charcuterie board. He did all of the quote unquote right things technically. So why wasn't it a home run? Like, why did she feel like this was a swing and a miss? Like, why wasn't there that shock and awe on her face and that love and the tears?
Maybe it was like the happy retirement plates or the vroom vroom police car balloon.
The Lightning McQueen napkins that she used to brush off some stale cake from her mouth.
Yeah, and this is like, what was like their 10th wedding anniversary or something like that?
This is
like,
10
it's
years
a big
of
deal.
wedding.
Yeah, well, he technically, like you said, he technically did all the right things for this situation, but he did them all his way, right? Like he chose to do it his way, which was not the way that his wife wanted, that they had agreed, I'm sure, at some point to have a party with balloons and snacks and, plates and napkins. But he did it in a way that kind of, I don't know, trespassed on the covenant there, trespassed on the agreement and led her to be ultimately disappointed. So like you can still do all the things you need to do, but in a way that warrants none of the blessings in that covenant, right?
Yeah.
So you're robbing yourself and everybody else around you of a good time.
Yeah, it didn't seem like his focus was actually on her or their marriage or their relationship as much as it was on his bank account and on his wallet and on himself. And so I think, that's one of the signs that I saw from this. What are some of the thoughts that you think would run through her mind as she looks around? She sees like the Lightning McQueen balloon. She sees, the Sweet 16 napkins and all of that. What do you think some of her thoughts were as she looked at all of that? She saw that her friends were there and had to be a part of that. And your back was cringing. Could you imagine all of these people? The amount of cringe that they were all thinking like, hey,
what's happening?
Like they even were talking to the camera crew, like, yeah, we would never do this, but I guess this works for them. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think a single thing there said happy wedding anniversary on it. You know, it was happy retirement, happy birthday.
There was anniversary
happy...
sale. I saw that.
Oh, okay. Close.
Yeah.
You know, points for being close, I guess.
Good try, I guess.
Yeah. So if she walks in, she sees nothing that actually says, I appreciate you. Thank you for being with me for 10 years, which seems a lot bigger feat than I thought before after seeing the party that he threw for her. That might be the last wedding anniversary. I don't know. You know? But nothing she saw in there said, I'm thinking about you in the way that it says, I'm thinking about how to do this in a way that I like to do it, right? It's like, this is my version. It's giving a gift, but in a way that warrants no benefit or blessing to anybody. So
I imagine she might have felt confusion about his commitment to the relationship, maybe a little bit of doubt about how much he valued the relationship versus how much she values the relationship. I imagine there were probably some other feelings and some other emotions that were going through her mind as well. Maybe something similar to this verse in Ecclesiastes, which says, when thou vowest a vow unto God, defer not to pay it, for God hath no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. So if you're going to say, I'm going to stick with you, I'm going to be there for you, I'm, thick or thin, I'm there for you. And then on like these really special days, these really special moments, you try and shortcut, like get around honoring your relationship and honoring this person and the highs and lows that you've been through.
To your point, like, you don't have to spend money to make it a special day. Like, he could have made a cake, he could have made a gift. He could have, done something or taken her somewhere that doesn't cost a lot of money in order to really make it a special occasion. He could have served her, right? Like, there's so many different ways that he could have made this a better, experience, except he just wasted all his time and $25. That's really what happened. It's like, that cost him $25. He got nothing for it.
Well,
so for haggling, I feel like that's a bad deal.
It turned out to be a lose-lose scenario. So he put in all the work and he got none of the benefits for it. And that's actually what you do when this is what happens to a lot of members when they don't do things with their heart and minds in the right place. They may put in all the work, but they will reap none of the benefits because of that. So the reason why I use this I use this to show it to my kids to help them understand, like, hey, even they understand. Like, yeah, that was bad, Dad. I was cringing too. So keep that image in your head. And now let me take you through like my average teenage Sunday routine, okay? Which you were probably pretty familiar with. So Dad would come into our room. He'd swing the door wide open. He would snap the blinds open and he would sing the song. He'd come in every morning, sing the same song. And so he would sing the song, come out and say, all right, hey, no, you got to get up. You got to get ready for church in 2 hours. And then I would be like, okay, that's 110 more minutes than I need to get ready.
Yeah, for real.
So I would get up, slam the door, shut the blinds, go back to bed. Then 10 minutes before church, Mom would be honking on the horn and saying, like, come on, we got to go. And then I'd be like, oh, crap. And so it was then like the McAllisters getting ready for the airport with the John Williams music in the background. And so I'd run through, I'd get everything ready. I'd put on my shirt and tie, run to the car. I'd get into the pews and then immediately get into the sacrament slump where I'd put my forehead on my arms and try and sleep and just pray that there was a homecoming or something like that. I wouldn't participate in my class. I'd avert my eyes anytime there was a question. I'd try and forget my scriptures, all of that. Go home, do my homework, and do things that I would do every other day of the week. So as we have these two stories here, what I'm trying to illustrate is that our actions show a sign, and they give off signs about how we treat, how we respect, and how we value our covenantal relationship. And so I'm sure my performance as a teenager on these Sundays was the equivalent of oxygen-filled Lightning McQueen balloons taped up for this woman's 10th wedding anniversary, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was bringing the equivalent of like the Get Better Soon anniversary sale napkins to the table. I wasn't preparing my mind, my heart, they weren't in the right place. I wasn't doing it because I wanted to do it. I was just there. And God wants more than that. He wants your heart, mind, and strength. He wants everything. And that's what you would expect from a covenantal relationship like marriage, is you want everything. You wouldn't just want the person to be there. You want the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, well, there's a certain level of dishonesty in that, you know, it's because you said you're going to be there. You know, you made promises to be there to try, but you're not living up to those, right? So there's a level of honesty that you need to have with yourself first. Be like, am I going to give it my all? Because I need to address that within me. I need to give it my all. Because I did the same thing, and you see it today. Nowadays, people will just go to church, you know, and then they'll sit in the pew, pull out their phone, do something else. You just sit there and just check out immediately. Like, well, why? Like,
it's easy to default to the do's and don'ts. You know, it's really easy to just default to that list of like, hey, I went to church. Hey, I got dressed. I put on my tie. I did the right things. I technically did everything the right way, but my heart and my mind wasn't really in it. And therefore, you start giving off signs about your relationship. So when it comes to signs of the Sabbath, one of the things to keep in mind is that your actions, your behavior, your preparation for the Sabbath is a sign. And that's something that I think I didn't understand growing up in the church. It's not something that I understood until after I got married. I was like, okay, now I get it. Now that I have this relationship, I'm starting to understand the importance of signs. And that has really helped me to understand what is okay to do on the Sabbath, what's not okay to do on the Sabbath. It's made everything, just like what President Nelson said, crystal clear. But as we wrap up, are there any final remarks you have?
Well, just to that point, like, there doesn't need to be a clear-cut list of do's and don'ts if you are really trying to show God that you care, right? Like, if you really want to show him that you want, and show your kids and your family, you know, as a father and a parent, you need to set that example of like, this is someone who is devout to God. This is what they do on the Sabbath to worship him, you know? And like, hey, it's you don't get it right every single Sunday. There are some days where I end, you know, with family prayer on the end of the Sabbath and say, we're grateful for the Sabbath day. My kids look up and like, what are you talking about? I didn't know it was the Sabbath.
Grateful.
You know? Like, what? Yeah. So I think that, you know, you just keep practicing at it. But if your heart's in the right place, those questions will fall to the wayside, and you can find a very clear path forward in how to worship Heavenly Father on the Sabbath day.
Right. And if you're having questions about like, well, what is okay and what's not okay on the Sabbath, just reframe it. I found it to be super helpful. Reframe it, put it into this, I guess, the analogy of a relationship, and say, all right, well, would I need a list of do's and don'ts on a date with my wife? Would I need a list right in front of me of like, okay, I need to go on the date. I need to dress up for the date. I need to make sure that I pay for the meal, blah, blah, blah. But then I don't put my heart and my mind in it. Do you think she would notice? Absolutely. You know, like if I was just there, just on my phone the whole time, you know, and I'm on a date and she's trying to talk to me and engage with me and build this relationship, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I think at a certain point she would just say, check, please. And then we would be done. And the night would be over, and I'd be like, what? Babe!
I did the thing. Yeah, well, that's actually more offensive, right? It's more offensive to have that experience than to not go on the date at all. You know, it's like you're wasting my time.
Like you got
maybe
so
God
close.
feels like that sometimes.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure he's a lot more patient. I'm sure he loves effort.
I hope so.
He's a lot more patient.
I know he does.
But if you are looking to take your Sabbath to the next level, and you're looking to try and get more of your Sabbath, or if you don't feel like you get that much out of your Sabbath, it may be worth examining the signs that you're giving on the Sabbath day and saying, maybe I need to revisit my Sabbath experience. Maybe I need to revisit my Sabbath prep and approach this from a different angle. From my experience, it's brought me nothing but in the words of Isaiah, the Sabbath has become a delight to me. And it's helped me immensely to be able to just check out of the world. It's a day now that in the Jewish tradition, they considered the Sabbath as a temple in time, which is really cool. Like when they were traveling, they didn't have a temple. They considered the Sabbath day to be a temple experience in itself. And so that is really cool because you can just, when you go to the temple, you leave all your problems at the door and you go in, you have this amazing experience. You're able to just get a different perspective. And then you come back out and you're like, okay, I'm ready to pick these back up. In my experience, that's what the Sabbath can do for you if you honor it the right way. So for that reason, we call out the culture, the cultural idea of the lists, the endless lists and the PowerPoints and all of that. And we say, let's do better. Let's step up.